A very good evening and welcome to Eyes on the County. I'm Philip Anderson. Tonight,
it's really very unclear as to whether they have any long-term plans for this building or not. It just seems to be it's costing £180,000 to run the building now. They see it as a cost that can be wiped off the balance books.
The future of Shire Hall, Stafford, currently the home of the art gallery and library, is currently under the hammer, following the latest round of budget cuts announced by Staffordshire County Council. Tonight we separate fact from conjecture with guest Mike Lawrence, Staffordshire County Council's Tory Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture, Steve Elsey, Branch Chair Secretary, UNISON Stafford, and Staffordshire County Councillor Maureen Compton, Labour's Shadow Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture. The future of Shire Hall, Stafford, my topic tonight.
Eyes on the County. Eyes on the County. Eyes on the County. Stafford FM.
One of Stafford's most iconic buildings may close this year if a buyer isn't found. The future of Shire Hall, Stafford, which originally opened as a court in 1794, has been cast into doubt as a result of shock cuts at Stafford County Council. The building, which currently attracts 250,000 visitors annually, currently houses Stafford Library and the Art Gallery, and up until recently played host to the area's most prestigious creative art competition.
We would like to bring Ella Firth, age 6, to the front for her first prize. Jessica McMahon, age 11, for Benji on the Beach. We've got Stephen Collins as our winner, age 15, for Super Femo Brothers Special.
The council claim they need to make savings of £1.9 million over the next 5 years, which could see the library and the art gallery taken out of one of the area's most iconic, prestigious landmarks. This comes in the wake of the council's latest decision to cut 38 youth clubs and support services for the vulnerable and elderly. In a moment, we're going to be joined by the County Council Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture, Mike Lawrence. But first, Steve Elsey, Branch Chair Secretary of UNISON Stafford, and Councillor Maureen Compton, Labour's Shadow Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture, shares with me their concerns for the future of Shire Hall.
We know the council don't really seem to have any clear plans for the future of the Shire Hall. Presently, it's the art gallery and the library. We know that they are considering and have been considering for some time. They are looking at moving the library to the ground floor of the new council buildings. We believe to where the unused shop areas are. That area is significantly smaller to that compared to that of which the library presently is. There are no plans to continue with an art gallery in Stafford. Once the building is to be disposed of, the art gallery will close and that facility will be withdrawn.
Is that conjecture or is that based on evidence?
That's based on what we have heard the Cabinet Member responsible for these proposals and the Deputy Leader of the Council saying themselves, and also the contents of the medium-term financial strategy.
Councillor Compton.
It's significantly important to me because it is the cultural quarter of Stafford. It's also the centre of Stafford. And it's at the moment we have the library, we have the theatre, and we have the art gallery all together in the centre of the town. And I think this sends out a message. We are meant to be the cultural county. And if this is the county town, then our culture must remain in the centre of this county town.
There are some big issues here that the County Council are not altogether being openly transparent in terms of what their proposals are. How do you see that, Steve?
In discussion, various ideas have come out in terms of a boutique hotel, in terms of uses for restaurants. As I say, it's really very unclear as to whether they have any long-term plans for this building or not. It just seems to be it's costing £180,000 to run the building now. They see it as a cost that can be wiped off the balance books.
They haven't been transparent at all because, as I said, I found this information in their medium-term financial plan during the Christmas holiday. Was absolutely astounded, and that was the first I knew about it. I wasn't told about it. I was at a scrutiny committee meeting and was able to ask the question of the cabinet member. And I said, well, where's this decision going to be made? Because it's just not transparent. So he said the Strategic Property Board. Well, the Strategic Property Board only has the cabinet members on it. It is a closed board, and that will take place on the 29th of January. I was also told that they could give Ian Parry delegated powers.
Councillor Compton, you know exactly how politics work. You know that there are a lot of councils at the moment that are having their budget squeezed from the top. Now, if you were in power and the boot was on the other foot, would you still be making the same decision?
I certainly wouldn't be making this decision, no. I think this is, as I said before, I think culture is very important to the county town, and I think the Shire Hall Gallery and the library being in the centre of town is key. So it would not be a priority for me, and I do understand that there needs to be cuts, and it's a very difficult decision to make, but I do find that the decision that they've made to do this, it's very, very difficult for me to understand as to why.
According to some recent research, Ballymena in Northern Ireland has seen a 12% increase in tourist trips in 2 years. And that's because the council over there have invested in the regeneration of council premises of arts and cultural venues, and that's actually brought people into the town.
At the moment, the library is in the centre of town, and I've been asking people to sign a petition. And what they have all said to me is that they want to stay in the centre of town. It's easy for them to get to, and they don't really see Staffordshire Place as being the appropriate venue for a library.
But they aren't cutting the library service, though. All they're doing is relocating it, it makes financial sense.
Well, I'm not sure that it does actually make financial sense. I mean, originally the plans were for that building to have restaurants and to have shops there and cafes, and it was thought that because you've got quite a large number of staff there, that would be very attractive to shops and cafes. Well, it hasn't been, and I'm not quite sure why. Obviously, the shops and cafes do not see it as a viable place to be, so therefore they're only putting the library there because they can't find anyone else to go there.
They know that it's going to be incredibly difficult to find somebody who's that interested to take that building forward and to find a use for it. And we are concerned. We know that there's quite a number of the buildings that the council decamped from to move into Staffordshire Place that are still vacant and are still up for sale. Now, Ian Parry's commented to both Maureen and I, this isn't Knightsbridge. There's no rush for property. And while there's plenty of buildings available, why, as a profit-making enterprise, going to try and make something of a building that they know is going to be a significant hassle for them?
Is it the loss of the services that you're concerned about, or is it the loss of a cultural landmark here in Stafford that's at stake here? Councillor Compton.
I think it's a mixture of all these things, really. It is a cultural landmark, and we wish it to remain as a cultural landmark.
So why are you so concerned that it remains open?
It's a place for people to come into. You don't have to pay to go in there. You just go in. It's a space which is safe for people to go into. It's stimulating because it has art. It is cultural because you have books, and people just go in there, they have a cup of tea, they sit there, they go on a computer, and that might help them to find a job.
It's clear that the councillors who are making these decisions don't appreciate the art gallery for what it is. Comments have been made to us that it's for knitting patterns, that we can't have the Staffordshire Hoard there because we don't have the security, forgetting the fact that the Staffordshire Hoard was there for quite a significant period.
There's also the historic side of it, I think, as well. And you have to remember the Shire Hall was built around 1795 to 98. It's a historic building from that perspective, and it was a building for courts. And now you can go in there, children can go in there, theatre companies go in there, into court buildings, into the court, and they can actually see what a court used to be like in that building. And I think that's historically interesting for people.
So you don't have a strategic plan then of your own as to what you would do with the building under the present circumstances?
I prefer the building to stay as it is There may be some changes you could make.
Such as?
I think the question of, obviously there's going to be the question of more e-books, and so therefore there's the digital side of libraries, and we could expand in that area.
You can do that online, and you don't need a public building in order to access that.
Absolutely you can, but you can also come into the library and also download. You should be able to come into a library and download e-books as well. So there is that possibility for the future.
The vacant premises under Staffordshire Place do have the potential to be let for any number of uses. There are very few restrictions on what they could be used for. The alternative is, and the proposal is, to move the library into those spaces which would have a wide and varied use, and leave empty a space which would have a very restricted use. To me, that just seems crazy. And I think we need to look at a far more long-term plan. If we knew what plans were in place for that building, if there were clearly defined, set out plans that wouldn't leave that building empty, vacant, degrading, and actually costing Staffordshire residents money, I think we'd probably all be a lot more comforted.
Steve Elsey, Branch Chair Secretary, UNISON Stafford. I was also in conversation with County Councillor Maureen Compton, Labour's Shadow Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture. Well, coming up in a moment, we're going to be joined by Staffordshire County Council's Tory Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture, Mike Lawrence, when we strive to separate conjecture from fact. That's next. Eyes on the County, Philip Anderson with you right through until 8. Where today we are exploring the future of Shire Hall, Stafford, one of the area's most iconic buildings, built as a court in 1794, but which today houses the Art Gallery and Stafford Library, both of which, including the building, are currently under threat, thanks to the latest round of budget cuts announced by Staffordshire County Council. It has been proposed that the library be relocated to Stafford Place beneath the civic buildings, and that the Art Gallery, according to my earlier two contributors, namely County Councillor Maureen Compton, Labour's Shadow Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture, and Steve Elsey, Branch Chair Secretary of UNISON, will be no more should the Shire Hall close. Well, are they right or are they wrong? Well, now it's time to find out, as we welcome to the programme Staffordshire County Council's very own Tory Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture this time, Mike Lawrence. Well, Councillor Lawrence, it's your opportunity now to set the record straight, to separate fact from conjecture, and maybe you could tell us, what is the future for Staffordshire Hall?
Well, we recognise at the County Council that the Shire Hall is an historical, important building. It's iconic in status, and it is held in high regard by the people of Stafford, and it is also held in high regard by me. I think it's a fantastic building. And what we're doing is trying to work with people to ensure that going forward in the future, the Shire Hall continues to be that outstanding building in Stafford.
Well, that being the case then, given the prestigious nature of Shire Hall, why on earth are we all of a sudden debating its future?
Well, all parts of the County Council have for the last few years been subject to rigorous scrutiny of how we spend our money. All the services are subject to challenge, in as much as what we've got to try and do is deliver the same services, try and improve those services, but see if we can do it for less money.
But we're talking of a significant landmark here, aren't we? So that's...
We are, yes. I'm getting to that. What we've been doing over the last few years is doing some difficult stuff, but doing stuff that is achievable. And we've identified that we are spending a lot of money on the Shire Hall. We're spending over £180,000 a year.
Well, that's because it's a significant landmark, though, isn't it? And obviously it's going to cost that sort of money to keep it going. And by accounts, that's significantly quite cheap, isn't it?
It might be cheap to you, but it's all according to how much money you've got in your pocket. And you've heard the tale about, you're a rich man if you earn £20 a week and spend £19.99, you're rich. If you spend £20 in a penny,
Indeed, but I think some
poor.
people might also say it depends where your priorities lie.
Well, it does, and my priorities and our priorities at the County Council are in people. People come first, and buildings are second. But I recognise and understand that this is an important, iconic building, and what we're endeavouring to do is to find a use for it going forward in the future that will protect the building, so that it will still be there in that prominent position and held in high esteem by all the people of Stafford in 20 years' time and 50 years' time. It's not about closing the Shire Hall. It's not about knocking the Shire Hall down. That building is protected, and it will be there. And what we want to do is establish that it's got good use, and we're making the best use of that resource at the end of the day.
All right, well, let's start by separating fact from rumour and examining some of the conclusions you may have reached. As you well know, since the story broke just before Christmas, a lot of rumours have been going about, suggesting the building may become a hotel, a conference centre. I think you yourself were quoted as saying on BBC Radio Stowe just before Christmas you didn't care whether it became a public house or not. Well, are these facts or are these rumours? What plans do you really have for Shire Hall at the moment?
We don't know is the answer. And what we're doing at the moment is looking at the market and seeing what the market think of that place and let them come forward with some suggestions.
Well, what would you like to see then? Okay, well, what would you like to see as person who's the councillor responsible for arts and culture as well as children's services, but as somebody who's saddled with this portfolio, what would you like to see?
I would like to see somebody come along and say, look, we value the Shire Hall. We want to see that cultural message being continued through in that theme.
Oh, Mike, that sounds a little bit like wishful thinking to me, as though you're just sitting back on your laurels in the hope that somebody, somewhere in the great unknown is going to come over and present you with a handsome offer. It doesn't quite work like that. You and I well know that.
Yes, and that's what we're doing at the moment. We're looking at the market. We're looking to see what suggestions are coming back. And we're not just doing that with the Shire Hall. We're doing that with lots of things. And yes, we are getting other people. We're getting the private sector, the voluntary sector, to do things for us. We're commissioning them to do those things for us. And generally, it's working very well, and it's being received very well.
Mike, you and I well know that it's all well and good for you to sit back on your laurels and commission the public and the private sector to do the work that the county council should really be doing themselves. And from where I'm sitting, it would appear you've become complacent. You're waiting for that all-important euphoric moment when your fairy godmother, whoever that may happen to be, will come along and make you this handsome offer for Shire Hall. Well, I can't envisage this happening in the foreseeable future, and in the words of your colleague, Councillor Ian Parry, I doubt whether he can either, because he wouldn't have said, this isn't Knightsbridge, there isn't any real demand for buildings in Stafford. So in the meantime, rather than just sitting back and doing very little, why don't you defend the arts in view of the recent cuts, instead of sitting back on your laurels?
Right. Yes, I am the cultural champion in Staffordshire, and I will do everything within my power to ensure that what is being delivered out of the Shire Hall going forward in the future has that cultural theme running through it. That is my ambition.
Well, that's your ambition. So what evidence have we got that you are proactive here, that you are doing something? What can
At the
you tell
moment,
us?
we're doing a review. We're waiting for the market to come back to us. We're waiting for people to come and say, we can do this at the Shire Hall for you. And when we've got those offers on, when we know what is about, then we can make a decision as to which way we go forward.
All right, well, just moving it on slightly then. If it is, as has already been indicated, that the library is relocated from Shire Hall to Stafford Place, and the art gallery is no longer funded by Staffordshire County Council, who do you see suffering as a consequence?
Well, I think the people of Stafford will suffer initially because they won't have that cultural offer within the town. But we've never said that the gallery will close. What we've said is the gallery will stay where it is in the Shire Hall until we've made a decision what will happen to the Shire Hall. And if that decision is, at the end of the day, means that the gallery has to move out of the Shire Hall, what we will then endeavour to do is find another location where that gallery can be delivering the cultural offer in Stafford.
Well, that's interesting. So are you therefore saying you disagree with my two earlier contributors, namely Councillor Maureen Compton and Steve Elsey from UNISON, who both said, and I quote, should Shire Hall close, then the art gallery will no longer continue. Are they wrong?
They are wrong, yes. I clearly said right at the beginning of this, about a month ago, when we talked about the library, the proposal to move the library from there to Stafford Place, the gallery would stay where it was until a decision had been taken as to what would happen in the future to the Shire Hall, and that has not changed.
All right, well, moving swiftly on, as we are running rapidly out of time, and I would like, just for the next couple of minutes, concentrate on costs, if I may. Just give us an idea of what the annual running costs are of Shire Hall, combining the library and the art gallery. And what savings do you anticipate making in the future should the library relocate to, say, Stafford Place?
The cost of running the library, if we look at the library service in Stafford, and I'm not just including the Stafford Library, it's the full library offer in Stafford, is £346,000. So it's a considerable amount of money.
But this £180,000, then what's that figure?
My understanding is that is the running costs of the Shire Hall building, which includes the gallery.
Okay, so if the library is relocated to, say, Stafford Place, and that's another debate in a minute, but if the library is moved to Stafford Place, what sort of a significant saving are you hoping to make there?
Well, we haven't done a full business case on this. We're going through that process now. But there will be savings, I know already, of about £75,000. And that is predicated on the fact that at the moment, the current library in the Shire Hall, being on different levels, requires additional staff to work those premises.
So it's on three levels at the moment, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at a much smaller library, should it move?
We're going to be looking at a library that will be smaller, yes, but that is part of the future of the library across the whole of Staffordshire. As you know, we're doing a review into libraries and the library offer going forward. And what we're doing is preparing the library offer for Staffordshire for the 21st century.
And what do you mean by that? What sort of things are you going to be including in that provision?
Well, let's just look at Stafford Library at the moment. If we look at the last 5 years, the footfall across the library has dropped by 19% in the last 5 years. So we are lending less books today than we were 5 years ago.
385,000 visitors to Stafford Library alone, I think, up until 2012. That's a significant number of footfall.
It is. We've got altogether across the whole of Staffordshire, we have 800,000 people regularly visit libraries across Staffordshire. It's a very important part of the way of life of people of Staffordshire, and I understand that and respect that. It's 10% of the population.
So if it's an important aspect, reducing it's perhaps going to shake their confidence somewhat in the future of the service.
No, because the future is going to be a mixture of people wanting to walk to a library, go in there and physically borrow a book, and there will be people that will be just logging on via their computer, going into this virtual library, borrowing an e-book, and then downloading it. Library books will always be available to be borrowed.
So basically what you're saying is then, if we look at the virtual library is going to be the cheaper of the two options to run, because people can do that wherever they happen to be in the country, county, wherever, and it's from the comfort of their own home. So you won't have any staffing costs to contend with there, will you? So in a way, you're hoping that if you are going to be making savings, you'll be hoping more people, and you've got to assume that not everybody is computer or internet savvy at the moment, will depend on that service.
I agree with you entirely, but take an example of the music business. Look at the music business 10 or 15 years ago, when every town had 2 or 3 shops selling records, selling DVDs and CDs. The majority of that market has just disappeared.
Simply because of internet piracy, though, isn't it? That's what it's mainly due to. But that's probably a debate for a rainy day, Mike. But just in conclusion, you have no plans on supping your first pint in the Shire County pub should the Shire Hall close and become a licensed premises in the future?
Definitely not. Look, I'll tell you how this came about. I think it was BBC Radio Stoke were interviewing an ex-mayor of Stafford who said that we were going to make it into an old alehouse. And I was asked a question, and I thought it was a silly question, so I perhaps gave it a silly answer in as much as I didn't give it as much consideration as I should have done. I don't think in any circumstances it will ever end up as a licensed premise as a public house. What we will endeavour to do is make sure that whatever activities take place in the future in the Shire Hall befits the status of the building.
Oh, absolutely. And the last thing we want is for it to attract the wrong type of artist, should it become a licensed premises.
Yes. That was a very good one, Phil. Thank you.
Indeed.
Look at the county. We've nobody has ever suggested that the Shire Hall will be a public house, will be a licensed premise. It's never ever crossed anybody's lips. I've never even thought about it until I was asked that question last month. Rest assured, it's not going to be a public house. It's going to be a building that will be put to a use that people in Stafford want, because we'll be consulting with them anyway about this. And as I say, whatever that activity is, it will befit the status of the building.
Thank you ever so much indeed, Mike.
Cheers, Phil.
Mike Lawrence, Staffordshire County Council's Cabinet Member for Arts and Culture. And if you would like to help save Staffordshire Hall, you can find out more information by going to Facebook. Just look for Save Staffordshire Hall.